After I was reborn, the first thing my cousin and I did was switch husbands. In my previous life, my cousin and I got married around the same time. She, with her gentle and quiet personality, married the cool and distant Navy captain Tom. Tom missed their wedding anniversary because he was celebrating his childhood sweetheart's birthday. My cousin wanted an explanation, but Tom said he had nothing to feel guilty about. Because of this, they gave each other the cold shoulder for 50 years. Meanwhile, I, with my fiery temper and tendency to let my fists do the talking, married an accountant from the local factory. The quiet accountant constantly nagged me about my loud voice and lack of fashion sense. We argued every few days, and eventually he started avoiding coming home altogether. We divorced less than a year into the marriage. When I opened my eyes again, my cousin and I were back on the day we both got married. "Hey, you brat. Get down here right now," my mom yelled, chasing the train I was on. "You're turning down a perfectly good accountant to go to some godforsaken island. Why did I have such a frustrating kid?" Seeing my mom run after the train, scolding me, looking so disappointed, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. But then I thought about how things ended up for me and my cousin in our past lives, and I told myself my decision was the right one. Sure, Palm Island is remote, and Tom isn't easy to get along with. So what? If it works out, great. If not, we'll just go our separate ways. I'm a grown woman, I can survive without a man. But my cousin couldn't. In her previous life, after marrying Tom, they misunderstood each other for a lifetime because of someone else who came between them. She was the gentlest person, and Tom just wore her down. So this time, reborn, seeing my cousin frowning and looking worried, I decisively started packing my bags. "Sis, I'll marry Tom," I said. "That guy, Bill, might not seem like much, but he's got a good temper. You two should get along." Hearing this, my cousin's face lit up. Then she bit her lip and said firmly, "Tom is not easy to get along with. Not to mention his childhood sweetheart. I can't let you take on my misfortune. Sis, since it's an arranged marriage we can't get out of, it doesn't matter who marries him, right?" Grandpa never specified which granddaughter. "Besides, if Tom isn't easy to get along with, you think your little sister is any different? When I get to Palm Island, if things work out, they work out. If they don't, I'll fight. I'll get revenge where it's due and complain when I need to. Who cares about the consequences? Being happy is what's most important." Saying this, I showed off a few martial arts moves. Seeing me clown around, my cousin burst into laughter through her tears and tapped my forehead. Unlike my cousin's gentle nature, I'd practiced martial arts since I was little, and was used to settling things with my fists rather than words. That's why I never saw eye to eye with Bill, who considered himself an intellectual. I couldn't stand his constant quoting of books, and he couldn't stand my lack of femininity. Our life together wasn't any better than my cousin's. We split up after less than a year. So coming back this time, it was better to let my cousin marry him. No matter how bad it was, at least Bill lived close to home. Having family around was better than in the previous life, where my cousin suffered alone and heartbroken on Palm Island with no one to turn to, eventually becoming ill from depression. Thinking about this, I held my cousin's hand and pleaded with her. Finally, she reluctantly nodded. "Fine, I'll switch with you." And just like that, I grabbed my luggage and boarded the train to Palm Island. I just didn't expect my mom to show up so quickly. I had left a letter explaining everything clearly. What was she still worried about? I'm going to Palm Island to get married. If it doesn't work out, I'll come back on my own. I yelled this to my mom, who was still chasing the train. Just like that, eating and sleeping, the 3-day, 2-night train journey quickly brought me to La Province. I quickly grabbed my things and squeezed onto the boat heading to Palm Island. I thought this trip would also be a peaceful journey where I could just sleep, but I didn't expect seasickness to be a thing. After the boat ride, my face was pale, and I smelled strange. Sitting at the military post, waiting for Tom to pick me up, I couldn't help but think about how I had just thrown up my guts. I felt a bit relieved. Good thing I was the one marrying him this time. My cousin is so delicate, how could she endure such hardship? "Tom, why does this room smell so weird?" "I feel sick," a sickly sweet voice said in front of me as I was lost in thought. I looked up. A girl with pigtails, looking as delicate as a willow in the wind, was currently wrinkling her nose and complaining to the man beside her. I glanced at the tall, upright, and serious-looking man next to her. I rolled my eyes. Tom, right? I'm your fiancée, Daisy Wong. Take a look at the marriage certificate. If everything's in order, let's find a place to sit and rest. Saying this, I tossed my luggage towards him, ignored the woman's hurt expression, stood up, and walked out. Tom, does your wife not like me? Amy said pitifully from behind. Already exhausted from the journey and feeling dizzy, a wave of anger surged through me. Like you don't like you? Do we even know each other? Tom, are you a man or not? Can you get things done quickly? Without looking at their expressions, I stormed out with a dark face. After a few steps, I felt someone following me. I glanced sideways. It was Tom, carrying my luggage, his face unreadable. He showed no intention of explaining what had just happened. No wonder my cousin had such a miserable life before. One pretty boy, one tight-lipped guy, and my cousin being so proud she was bound to suffer. But I'm not the type to hold grudges. I can make the best of happy days, and if I'm unhappy, I'll make sure you all suffer with me. Since the arranged marriage was a real thing, Tom had already received a call from home and knew I was coming. He had submitted the marriage application early on. So within a couple of days, our wedding was organized with the enthusiastic help of the wives in the military compound. Tom's parents had passed away long ago, and mine were far away, so the wedding guests were mostly his army buddies and their wives. Luckily, the atmosphere was still lively, and the family courtyard was bustling with excitement. I'm so envious of Daisy. She gets to marry Tom because of an arranged marriage. She's so lucky, someone said, then started sobbing quietly. The initially noisy courtyard, celebrating the marriage, instantly fell silent, leaving only the sound of weeping. The wedding guests looked at each other awkwardly. Looking at Amy's shaking back as she covered her face, I smirked. I took 2 steps forward, stood on my tiptoes, wrapped my arms around Tom's head, and gave him a loud kiss. Then, I provocatively raised an eyebrow at Amy. Yeah, aren't I lucky? Your Tom has a career, looks, and a good physique. Only someone as lucky as me deserves to marry him. Otherwise, I'm afraid someone less fortunate wouldn't be able to handle it. As I said this, I tightened my grip on Tom's waist and gave him a sharp pinch. Then, I smiled at him threateningly. Right, Tom? The man's expression didn't change, but his ears turned inexplicably red. Before Tom could speak, Amy looked at him pitifully, her eyes red. Tom, sis, please don't misunderstand. I genuinely came to congratulate you. If sis doesn't like me, I won't attend the wedding today. As she spoke, 2 streams of tears rolled down Amy's face. Tom, remember to pick me up tomorrow. We've spent this day together for so many years. Tom nodded. I'll prepare things and pick you up tomorrow. Don't worry. Hearing this, my hand that was around Tom's waist swiftly changed its grip, and I flipped him over my shoulder. The courtyard fell silent. Everyone stared at me in disbelief. Are you kidding me? Trying to assert dominance at my own wedding? And what's this about some anniversary? In their past life, they had a sweet time celebrating it, and then he didn't even bother to explain it to my sister. Because of this, they treated each other like polite strangers for their entire lives. I'm not my sister. She could tolerate it, but I can't, not one bit. You want to celebrate an anniversary? If you dare go, I dare fight her. Then I'll pack my bags and leave this desolate island. You really think the Wong family's daughters are desperate to get married? If it weren't for the elders insisting on keeping their promise, I'd be living a much more comfortable life. Tom, are you okay? Sis, how could you do that? Tom is a grown man, and you just... Amy's fair face was now flushed with anger. She looked at Tom with deep concern. Tom, however, quickly stood up straight, gave me a meaningful look, then coughed into his fist twice. I'm fine. Then, as if nothing had happened, he came over and took my hand. You'll come with me tomorrow. Hearing this, I looked at Tom in surprise. Amy was even more incredulous. Tom, how could you do this? I'm never speaking to you again. She covered her face and ran off crying. At this point, a buzz of discussion rose from the crowd. Let's finish the wedding first. I'll explain later. Be good. With the troublemaker gone, and me not really in the mood, the guests didn't dare cause much of a fuss. So the rest of the wedding proceeded quickly. Soon, sitting in the bridal chamber, I slammed my hand on the bed. What was Tom thinking? Was he trying to use his good looks on me just now? Don't think that works on me. Click. Seeing Tom push the door open and come in, I quickly put on a stern face and humphed. Let me tell you, I hate men who can't make up their minds. If you're going to have a sister today and a first love tomorrow, then we might as well split up now. Don't waste my time, I need to go back home and get married. Hearing my words, Tom frowned. Grandpa arranged this for me. I married you, and I'll be responsible for you. Hearing this, I scoffed. Tom, what century are you living in? Let me tell you, if we can make it work, great. If not, we get a divorce. When they arranged the marriage, they never said that once I married you, I'm yours for life. You. Tom seemed exasperated by me, pacing back and forth in the room. Then he sighed, sat down on the edge of the bed, and tried to take my hand. Daisy, there was nothing between Amy and me before, and there won't be anything in the future. I genuinely want to build a good life with you. He held my hand tightly, ignoring my struggles. I'm not good with words. If you're unhappy about anything, just tell me directly. I'll change whatever I can. Under the light of the bridal chamber, the man looked incredibly earnest. Seeing him like this, my face inexplicably flushed. I nodded and pretended to be nonchalant. Fine. My temper isn't great either. As long as you can accept that. Seeing the hint of a smile in Tom's eyes, I felt a little annoyed. I leaned in, wrapped my arms around his neck, and kissed him. Soon, our breathing became heavier. Tom, true to his reputation as a top soldier, quickly took control. He placed his hand on my buttons, staring at me intently, and said in a hoarse voice, "Is this okay, honey?" I pinched him, embarrassed and annoyed. What's there to ask at a time like this? Seeing my flushed face, Tom chuckled and buried his face in my neck. My bad. Feeling the warmth on my neck, I slowly closed my eyes. Tom, bad news. That girl Amy left a note and disappeared. A frantic knocking came from outside the door. Tom froze and quickly sat up straight. Honey, you go to sleep first. I need to step out. Hearing this, I glared at Tom angrily. There are so many people in the army. Do you absolutely have to be the one to find her? Don't you know it's our wedding night? Tom finished dressing, walked over to me, picked up my clothes, and started to dress me. Let's go together, honey. Amy's parents saved my life. I can't just ignore their only daughter. So please come with me, okay? When we get back, you can hit me or scold me as much as you want. Hearing this, I paused, then pushed him away and dressed myself. Let's go. Without looking at Tom, I walked out with a cold expression. After a few steps, I felt a warmth on my hand. I tried to shake it off twice but couldn't. I rolled my eyes at Tom in annoyance. Honey, slow down. It's dark out. Ignoring my anger, Tom held my hand firmly. In a few steps, we reached Amy's house. Since Amy's parents had passed away early, the military took pretty good care of her, an orphan. She lived alone in a large courtyard. Now it was crowded with people. Mrs. Lee, who was the first to discover Amy was missing, anxiously came over with the note. Tom, I don't want to be a burden to everyone. I'm going to join my parents. Looking at the short line of text, Tom frowned deeply. He quickly gave orders and everyone spread out to search for her. Soon shouts of Amy echoed throughout the island. The coastline area was particularly crowded with searchers. Worried something might have actually happened, I also started searching around this unfamiliar island. However, thinking about how many people were already searching the coastal area, I began to look in all sorts of nooks and crannies. And unexpectedly, I made a discovery. What? The person who came is you? Not Tom. Hearing my footsteps, Amy turned around in pleasant surprise, but her face fell the moment she saw who it was. Seeing her standing on the reef, looking resentful, I gave a sarcastic laugh. What, is a man who doesn't even have you in his heart worth risking your life for? Hearing this, Amy's face flushed red and white. She bit her lip and said, What do you know? Tom and I grew up together. My family saved his life. If you hadn't interfered, his wife would have been me. Hearing this, I sneered. Oh, if he really had feelings for you, would I have had a chance to interfere? Besides, our marriage was arranged when we were still in our mother's wombs. If we're talking about who came first, it's definitely not you. So you weren't in the picture before and you won't be in the future. Tom will only be my man. But if this man has any other ideas, I don't mind breaking his legs and handing him over to you so you two can be a pair of illicit lovers. I just don't know if you'd even want him then. With that, I prepared to leave. I found her, and it seemed like she didn't actually want to die. It was just a typical girl's drama of crying and making a scene. I couldn't be bothered with her. But then Amy grabbed me and whispered in my ear, "Tell me, if we both fell into the sea, who would Tom save? You or me?" Before I could react, I felt a strong force pull me into the sea. Caught off guard, I swallowed several mouthfuls of salty, bitter seawater. "Help! Tom! Save me!" Treading water, seeing Tom rushing over and Amy pretending to be panicked, a surge of anger welled up in my chest. This man who attracts trouble is so annoying. Then, I turned and swam vigorously towards Amy. A choice between two? Do I look like someone who needs a man to save me? Not only do I not need it, but you can forget about it too. As if she didn't expect me to know how to swim. Amy looked at me in disbelief. When my hand reached her, she struggled frantically, still yelling, "Tom! Save Amy!" Seeing her thrashing around like a pig at New Year's, and Tom already preparing to jump in, I swiftly knocked her out with a chop to the neck. Then, I unceremoniously dragged her towards the shore. Luckily, we had just fallen in and weren't far from the shore. We reached it in no time. Tom wanted to come and help, but I yelled at him without hesitation, "Stay away! If you touch her today, you can go to her house with a marriage proposal tomorrow." With that, I collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. Seeing a group of people surrounding Amy, Tom's face darkened. He glanced at Amy lying on the ground, then took off his jacket and draped it over me. "Honey, let's go home." As soon as he said that, Amy, who had been lying on the ground and just revived by the medic, sat right up and shouted, "Tom, don't go." Seeing the suspicious looks from the crowd, Amy pouted, her eyes welling up with tears. "Tom," Daisy Wong pushed me into the sea. "Are you going to help a murderer?" At these words, the entire crowd erupted. Some impulsive wives even rushed up to me, pointing at my nose and scolding, Well, we thought you were a straightforward person, but it turns out you have a black heart. What did our Amy ever do to you that you had to resort to such dirty tricks?" Exactly. Girls from out of town are just no good. The accusations around me were deafening. I clenched my fists, looking at the crowd and Amy, who had a hint of triumph in her eyes. Anger made me lose my mind. All I could think about was rushing forward and giving Amy a couple of slaps. But Tom grabbed me. Seeing his dark expression, I became even more furious. Who even wants to come to this godforsaken island? The food is bad, the sleep is bad, and now I'm being falsely accused. Even this man doesn't believe me. Thinking this, I felt inexplicably uncomfortable. Sure enough, he still chose to believe his childhood sweetheart. Fine then. After I beat everyone up, I'll go get a divorce. Daisy wouldn't do something like this. I believe her. And Amy, have you forgotten? You were the champion of last year's swimming competition, weren't you? As soon as he said this, Amy's face instantly turned deathly pale. Yeah, Amy. You know how to swim, don't you? Why did you need someone to save you just now? Seeing the suspicious gazes of the crowd, Amy was truly panicked now. Tears streamed down her face. I suddenly fell into the sea and got scared, so my leg cramped up. If Daisy hadn't pulled me just now, I wouldn't have been so frightened. Seeing her still stubbornly insisting that I pushed her, the fire in my heart could no longer be suppressed. I forcefully shook off Tom's hand and went up to Amy, delivering 2 hard slaps to her face. Instantly, Amy's face visibly swelled up. "You hit me. What right do you have to hit me?" The pain on her face made Amy lose her senses. She lunged at me, trying to scratch me, but I kicked her to the ground. I clapped my hands, looking at Amy, who was sitting on the ground clutching her face, and sneered, "So what if I hit you? Do I need to pick a special time for it? Tom, you promised my parents you would take care of me. Are you just going to watch your wife bully me like this? If you guys hadn't come quickly, I would have been dead today." Amy's eyes were red as she looked at Tom with a wronged expression. The crowd also looked at me with disapproval. "You have a point," Tom said, looking at Amy and then nodding. Seeing him like this, I cursed myself for being blind and marrying such a jerk. Just as I was about to fight to the bitter end, he stepped forward and gripped my hand tightly, so strong I couldn't break free. "Then let the investigators look into it. I believe based on the evidence at the scene, it won't be difficult to find out what happened. If Daisy did it, I absolutely will not cover for her. But if my wife has been wronged, I won't stand by and do nothing either." As soon as he said this, the onlookers nodded continuously. Some busybodies even turned around and went to call the investigators. Amy's face turned a ghastly pale, and she trembled while surrounded by the crowd. The wives, thinking she was cold from being in the seawater, took off their coats and wrapped her up tightly in the middle. I sniffled, lowered my head, and thought to myself, why haven't they arrived yet? Hurry up and say I did it so I can divorce this man and go home to eat my mom's braised pork. This godforsaken place, whoever wants to stay can stay. This man who attracts trouble, whoever wants him can have him. Honey, I believe you. Just bear with it a little longer. Once your name is cleared, we'll go home. You can hit me or scold me as much as you want then. Feeling the warmth of his words whispered in my ear, I couldn't help but be stunned. I looked up at Tom. The man's eyes were full of guilt, and his expression was unusually cautious. Soon the investigators arrived. However, things didn't go as I had expected, with them siding with their own. As the investigators determined that Amy had jumped in herself, the wives in the backyard awkwardly came over to apologize to me. Some kind-hearted ones, seeing Amy sitting on the ground with her head down, not saying a word, even tried to explain on her behalf, asking me to be more tolerant of her, saying it wasn't easy for her to lose her parents at such a young age. Everyone is being tolerant of her, but who will be tolerant of my wife? She's a young girl who came all the way to our island, only to be framed. Who should she complain to? Amy, listen carefully. Your life is your own. Mr. and Mrs. He were heroes, and their daughter should also live with dignity. I won't interfere in your affairs anymore. You're on your own. Saying this, regardless of the expressions on everyone's faces or Amy's furious and unwilling roars from behind, Tom took my hand and turned to leave. Back at the family courtyard, Tom brought over a freshly brewed ginger soup and carefully sat down next to me. Honey, back then when we were on a mission, it was Uncle He who provided cover for our platoon to retreat, and he ended up staying behind. So these years we've always been more tolerant of Amy. After all, she's Uncle He's only child. We never thought our indulgence would make the child turn out this way. Saying this, Tom sighed. The usually tough man now seemed inexplicably lost. What are you sighing for? Let me tell you from now on, I don't care about any Amy or Lisa. I don't care if they did you a favor or have a grudge against you. If you dare get entangled with other women, I'll dare to break all 3 of your legs. Seeing me with a stern face, brandishing my fist fiercely, Tom laughed out loud and then grabbed my fist. All right, whatever my wife says goes. The night is young, let's not discuss these things. Let's rest early. With that, he casually put down the empty bowl in my hand, his hot hands firmly gripping my waist. Soon my consciousness gradually blurred, and I fell into a daze. In the following days, Amy didn't appear before me again. However, the wives from before would occasionally bring over vegetables they had grown themselves or, after the tide receded, invite me to go beachcombing for seafood with them. Life went on at a leisurely pace, and I seemed to be gradually falling in love with life on the island. My relationship with Tom also became increasingly stable. Even though everything seemed to be getting better, I always felt like something was off. I had an inexplicable sense of unease. Until that day, I was happily carrying a bag of freshly picked oysters home when I saw Tom frowning and pacing restlessly at the courtyard gate, holding something in his hand, looking very anxious. When he saw me, he immediately grabbed me. Oh, look at you, missing your wife already after such a short time? Our Daisy is so lucky. Seeing he wasn't his usual self, I exchanged a few pleasantries with the teasing wives and quickly pulled Tom back into the house. Before I could speak, Tom handed me what he was holding. Honey, after we got married, did we forget to call home? This looks like a letter from Mom and Dad. Hearing this, my hand slipped, and the precious oysters I was holding fell to the ground. I didn't even bother to pick them up, because I knew my fate was probably worse than those oysters. Trembling, I opened the letter. Sure enough, even my cousin's elegant handwriting couldn't hide my mom's murderous aura. Mysteriously switching fiancés with my cousin, that was one offense. Boldly running off to get married on my own, that was another offense. Getting married and then completely forgetting about family, Not contacting them at all, that was adding insult to injury. There was no way out. Seeing Tom's grim expression at the end, I inexplicably relaxed. Whatever, if the sky falls, he can hold it up. What do I know? I know nothing. I only know that I'm living quite comfortably right now. At the end of the letter, my sister also wrote that after she married Bill, they were living a happy life. Not only that, but in the near future, I would be welcoming my own little nephew. You know, in our previous life, my cousin wasted her life with Tom, childless, divorced early to pursue her career, and also died alone. This time, she finally took a different path. Honey, your sister is having a baby. When are we going to have one? Tom had come up behind me at some point, wrapped his arms around my waist, and whispered in my ear. Forcefully ignoring the heat in my ear, I said casually, shouldn't that be up to you? If you were up to it, I would have been pregnant long ago. Hearing this, Tom didn't get angry. Instead, he glanced at the oysters nearby and said with a low laugh, all right. I'll recharge myself well tonight. I'll definitely make sure you catch up. Let's not talk about how that night went, but for a long time after, I didn't dare bring oysters home. Even if I found them while beachcombing, I would give them to the other wives. After some teasing, Mrs. Lee next door suddenly changed the subject. Hey, guess who I saw yesterday? Seeing everyone's curious gazes, Mrs. Lee satisfactorily revealed, last night, I was out looking for my boy, and I saw that Amy and that Michael Lee holding hands, strolling in the coconut grove. Hearing this, Mrs. Wong quickly shook her head. Impossible. That Michael Lee already has a wife and kids. No matter how mischievous Amy is, she wouldn't get involved with a married man, right? Besides, Michael Lee is old enough to be her father. Seeing everyone's doubtful looks, Mrs. Lee slapped her thigh and said defiantly, hey, I'm telling you, you don't believe me? Just wait and see. I reckon, from the looks of it yesterday, they probably won't be able to keep it under wraps for long. The island wasn't that big, especially the area where the military was stationed. They probably weren't even trying to hide it. Soon, rumors started spreading around the island. However, neither Tom nor I were nosy people. He was busy with military training all day, and I, not wanting to stay idle, discussed it with Tom and got a cooperation plan with the military. I was preparing to open a food processing plant on the island, using the island's coconuts and various seafood products as raw materials. This would not only bring income to the military, but also provide additional income for the local islanders. However, I encountered difficulties right from the start. I was full of confidence and ready to go big, but a typhoon came and nearly wiped out all my hard work. Looking at the factory building, battered and scattered by the wind, I rolled up my sleeves and prepared to clean up with the workers. So what if it was an accident? I've been in the business world for so many years, what haven't I seen? I never lacked the courage to start over. Well, if it isn't Mrs. Daisy. Lost your entire fortune, have you? As I was working hard, a sarcastic voice came from behind. I turned around. Sure enough, it was Amy. Different from our previous encounters, Amy had completely changed her plain appearance. She was wearing the trendiest dress of the season, with small leather shoes on her feet. As for jewelry, watches, and so on, everything was perfectly coordinated. But right now, the typhoon had just passed, and the entire island was a mess. Dressed like that, she must have suffered quite a bit getting here. Seeing my scrutinizing gaze, Amy became even more smug. Do you know what a good life is? I was foolish before, thinking a big-shot soldier like Tom was reliable. Now I understand. A man needs to have power and money. Only then can a woman live comfortably. Saying this, she actually twirled around in front of me. Otherwise, you'll end up like this, marrying someone and still having to work so hard, not enjoying any comforts at all. Looking at her smug expression, I sneered and pushed her to the ground. What? Did those 2 slaps last time not teach you a lesson? Or do my fists not look hard enough? It's your business if you want to rely on men to live, but don't come flaunting it in front of me and embarrassing yourself. The great leader said, women can hold up half the sky. Only a useless parasite like you would think of clinging to others to survive. If I were you and had done something shameful, I'd be hiding my head in shame, too embarrassed to see anyone. But you have the nerve to come out and show off. Look, next time there's a typhoon, use your thick skin to block it. The windproof effect will definitely be excellent. My blunt words made Amy's face turn shades of green and red. How dare you bully me? I'm telling you, my Michael Lee won't let you off. Don't even think about opening this crappy factory. And Tom can just pack his bags and get lost. Oh really? Today I'd like to see how you're going to stop this factory from opening. Before I could even land a punch, a commanding voice came from behind. Commander. Amy stammered. I turned around and saw it was Commander. He had a stern face and was speaking seriously to Amy on the ground. Beside him were Tom and Michael Lee. Ignoring Amy's current disheveled state, the commander reprimanded her harshly. Building a factory on the island is for the military, for our islanders. What right do you, Amy, have to stop them from opening? And you, a young lady, what's your relationship with Michael Lee? He then looked sternly at Michael Lee. Commander, we have no relationship whatsoever. I don't know why this girl is using my name to cause trouble outside. Amy looked at Michael Lee, who was ruthlessly distancing himself from her, in disbelief. How can you be so heartless? I've given myself to you. And you say we have no relationship? As soon as she said this, Michael Lee broke out in a cold sweat, nervously grabbing Amy's arm. From my angle, I could see the threat in Michael Lee's eyes. Little girl, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. You can't drag me down just because you want to help Tom, can you? I have a wife and kids. If you get involved with me, what about your reputation? Hearing this, Amy's eyes darted around. Then she looked at the commander and Tom with tears in her eyes. Tom, I'm sorry. I did all this because I was jealous of Daisy Wong. She got to marry you. Just now, she also pushed me to the ground because she was angry with us for having so many wonderful memories. That's why I said those things recklessly. You know, the person in my heart has always been you. Please don't be angry, okay? She lowered her head, covering her face, looking very wronged. Hearing this, the onlookers looked at Tom with reproachful eyes. Even Commander's gaze shifted back and forth between the two of them. Michael Lee, seeing the tables turning, was in a rather good mood, and was about to help Amy up from the ground. That's right. I don't want to get involved in you young people's affairs, he said with a smile as he helped Amy up. But whether Amy's legs were weak or something else, she fell to the ground again. Unfortunately, this time there was a large rock on the ground. With a muffled groan, Amy's face instantly turned deathly pale. There's blood on her shoe, a nearby wife exclaimed. Everyone's gaze followed her finger. Amy was bleeding heavily from below. This is a miscarriage, isn't it? In the quiet outdoors, a wife's whisper reached everyone's ears. Hearing this, Amy also panicked instantly. She grabbed Michael Lee's arm and asked tearfully, Michael, save our child. Save me. Hearing this, Michael Lee's face turned ashen. He knew that no matter what he said now, no one would believe him. His relationship with Amy was now set in stone. What are you still thinking about? Hurry up and send her to the clinic. Commander Lu roared. Michael Lee gritted his teeth, picked up the still crying Amy, and ran towards the clinic. Later, I heard that the baby couldn't be saved after all. Amy caused a huge scene at the clinic. Michael Lee, who was originally going to be disciplined for an inappropriate relationship, surprisingly hadn't legally married his wife back home. So they exploited this loophole and became the couple with the largest age gap on the island. Although the law couldn't punish them, Michael Lee was still affected by this incident. Not only did he lose his promotion, but he was also reassigned to an unpopular department. If nothing unexpected happened, he would probably have to transfer back home after a few more years. Furthermore, although his common-law wife wasn't legally married to him, she had quite a few children. Michael Lee's 3 children from back home, upon hearing that their father had remarried, quit school and came to the military base with their luggage. From then on, the Lee family lived a chaotic life. Every day, when the wives gossiped, they would inevitably mention the drama in their household. However, none of this had anything to do with us. Because by now the factory was built, and everything was on the right track. Tom and I finally had time to go back home and beg for forgiveness. This trip home was surprisingly smooth. I slept comfortably all the way back. Standing at the doorstep for a long time, Tom finally couldn't help but smile and take my hand, saying, "Don't worry. If there's any hitting or scolding later, I'll stand in front of you. Can we please stop trembling at the door?" After several deep breaths, I finally mustered the courage to step into the house. Before I could even put on a smile, A stern voice came from the main room, "Kneel." I pouted, thinking to myself that what was bound to happen had finally happened, and was about to kneel on the ground. But Tom knelt down before me. Looking at my parents and Grandpa sitting in the main room, he said with a sincere expression, "It's my fault. I didn't come back earlier to explain and apologize to you all. I have absolutely no complaints if you want to hit or scold me. However, Daisy is weak. I'll take her share of the punishment as well." Without waiting for a reply, he kowtowed 3 times with loud thuds. Grandpa still had a stern face, his expression unreadable. But my mom was grinning from ear to ear, her wrinkles all bunched up. If it weren't for Grandpa sitting there, she probably would have already rushed over to help her son-in-law to a seat. "Grandpa, don't be angry. Don't be angry, my little niece is here. Give me some face. Besides, look how happy my sister and I are now." Without waiting for the old man to react, I quickly went to the door and took the little niece from my cousin's arms. I accidentally used a bit too much force and made my sister stumble. Before I could reach out, Bill dropped what he was holding and quickly put his arm around my sister. "You're a grown woman, still so clumsy. You and your sister are nothing alike. You should be more gentle and poised," Bill said seriously. My cousin patted Bill's hand reassuringly and couldn't help but roll her eyes. I gritted my teeth and said, "I know, brother-in-law. Daisy's personality is great. I like her just the way she is, so lively." Tom had come up behind me at some point and was joking with Bill. "All right, what are you all doing standing at the door like guards? Hurry up and sit down for dinner," the old man said. Hearing Grandpa speak, my cousin and I looked at each other and smiled. Sure enough, his bark was worse than his bite. We were successfully off the hook. At the dinner table, Bill held the baby in his left hand and kept putting food on my sister's plate with his right. "This is your favorite. Auntie's crab is still the best. Next time I'm off, I have to come and learn a few tricks from her. It's rare to see you with such a good appetite." Watching Bill take care of my cousin while constantly chattering, I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed. Was this still the man who believed a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen? In our previous life, we argued endlessly about this. Now with my cousin, he was volunteering to do it. "Honey, I've already learned how to cook all your favorite dishes. So, can you please stop staring at other people like that?" Ahem. Hearing Tom's jealous tone, I coughed awkwardly. Indeed, my life was pretty good too. It seemed like Cupid's arrow hit the mark this time. We both found the right person. After dinner, seeing Bill clinging to my cousin, I couldn't resist shooing him away. After some effort, I finally got a little alone time with my cousin. "Sis, do you want to come to Palm Island with me?" As soon as I said it, my sister's eyes widened in confusion. "Look, we both know the commune system is ending soon. I guess brother-in-law will be laid off too. I happen to have a factory over there that's doing really well now and needs someone trustworthy to help out. Most importantly, you suffered so much because of that Amy in our previous life. This time, don't you want to see with your own eyes what a miserable life she's living?" I don't know which sentence convinced my cousin, or how she convinced Bill, but in the end, when we returned to the city, I was contentedly linking arms with my cousin, happily walking ahead, leaving those two non-run smelly men annoying men localized to those 2 guys behind to carry the baby and luggage. My good mood, which lasted the whole way, reached its peak when we passed by the Lee family's house. "My dad said you're here to serve us. You have to do whatever we tell you. A disobedient woman just needs a beating or 2. At this moment, Amy was being pushed around by 3 half-grown boys. She had completely lost her previous haughty demeanor, looking so thin and weak it seemed like a gust of wind could blow her over. Her body was covered in bruises, and her face was numb, like an emotionless puppet. "You can't say that. You're a family now, you have to live in harmony." "Yeah, old Lee, are you just going to watch these kids bully Amy like this? She's your new wife after all." She was, after all, a child they had watched grow up in the courtyard. Seeing her reduced to this state, the wives couldn't help but speak up for her. Michael Lee, however, just sat aside, puffing on his cigarette, his face grim, completely silent, just watching his new wife being pushed around and beaten by his sons. "Pa, what family? She's just a homewrecker who ruined our family. It's already letting her off easy, not making her live in the cowshed. I don't know what kind of parents could raise such a Janrun bitch slut localized to tramp. Like father, like son, a whole family of worthless trash." Perhaps one of those remarks hit Amy's sore spot. Before anyone could react, Amy scrambled up, pinned the boy who had just spoken to the ground, and started hammering him. Although she looked incredibly thin and weak, her ferocious expression made her seem like a demon from hell, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The scene eventually descended into chaos. Michael Lee, seeing his son being beaten, also went after Amy without holding back. The wives couldn't bear to see Amy being beaten, so those hitting and those trying to break up the fight turned the whole courtyard into a lively mess. Later, I heard that because the incident had such a negative impact, Michael Lee was directly discharged from the army, without even a chance for a civilian job transfer. He took his sons and went back to his hometown to rely on his farming common-law wife. As for Amy, she took this opportunity to divorce Michael Lee and disappeared from the island. From then on, this island where she was born and raised held no trace of her. No one knew where she went, and no one knew how her life turned out. But my cousin and I didn't want to care about these things anymore. The factory business was too good, and we were so busy every day that we didn't have the spare time to worry about unimportant people and things. Speaking of which, because I had been working overtime for several days in a row, Tom, who had been coming home and collapsing into bed, finally couldn't hold back his emotions. I'll have to think about how to appease him when I get back. The end.